In the 1950s and 60s, about 40% of all American men were a member of a civic organization. This building right here is the old Palmer Masonic Lodge. The amazing architecture on this includes the terracotta tiles and absolute art on this building. But many of these buildings had to house these big lodges. Now, just to give you an understanding, look how big that building is. It just keeps going. There's no backyard. It takes up almost the entire area. Now, here's the nature of things. As there are no longer as many men who are members of civic organizations, we've got an epidemic of loneliness apparently in this country. So when we look at some of these older, bigger buildings, there's just no way to fill them up. It doesn't make sense for lodges to have buildings that would house a lodge that had, in this case, 1,000 members of Palmer Lodge. Now, interestingly enough, this lodge also has been relocated. It is in a different space at this point. And this lodge is the one that actually has and still holds the record for having put on more Masonic degrees than any other lodge in the state of Wisconsin. They put on over degrees in right around the 1919, 1920 era. Interestingly enough, that was right around the time of the Spanish flu epidemic. And many lodges in our area also saw a fairly significant amount of growth right after COVID. Imagine attending lodge in a building with this kind of architecture. The symbolism on this building is just absolutely phenomenal. You've got the beehive there. You have some York Rite symbolism. Look at that. The square, the compasses, or the trowel, the common gavel, the pomegranate, the anchor, the all-seeing eye. It's reminding us constantly that God is watching and we should be good guys. Little forget-me-nots up there. Can you imagine the amount of time that it took to build this sort of an entrance alone? I can only imagine what the inside must look like. Now, interestingly enough, many of these old Masonic lodges have been sold to community organizations, or they're in private hands these days. This place right now is I believe it's a child's daycare and a church inside of here. But, if you think about what would it have been like to attend lodge here in the 1920s and 1930s, Keystone. So these lodges didn't just house the blue lodges, or what we call a craft lodge. These lodges also housed many appendant bodies, and appendant bodies such as chapter, where, when you look up and you see the symbolism with the keystone there, and as well as Scottish Rite. So everything could have been in a building like this. Now imagine, if you will, what a community where everybody held together and everybody worked together, and they knew that they could accomplish much more together than they could apart. How much more can we accomplish then? Now, just a couple blocks away from the Palmer Lodge, we have this, what was originally a public natatorium. That's where the entire community would come together and go swimming in this big old building. It harkens back to our old collective past. Interestingly enough, Milwaukee was considered in those days to be a socialist city. So everybody took some of the values, many of the values that they got from the old world when they were immigrants in Germany and such, and they brought those values to our community. And so when you think about our German heritage here and how much they accomplished, and then maybe go to Germany and take a look at how well those buildings are cared for and how everybody there makes sure that they take care of one another, you'll kind of get an understanding about how Milwaukee was built. And Milwaukee had many of these organizations that were built on a collective mindset of we can accomplish more together. Interestingly enough, we're also the home of some of the best parks in the nation. And just a couple of blocks away, we have Palmer Street. Palmer Street, by the way, was named after Henry L. Palmer, one of the guys who brought Scottish Rite to Wisconsin and helped to save Freemasonry here.